You know when you're watching something or playing a game and you come across that one character that you really like, but maybe you shouldn't? A lot of the times when we end up liking these characters, they're not really hiding anything about themselves. Who they are is right in front of your face and you end up liking them anyway. But sometimes you get lied to. Sometimes you get the fictional equivalent of your parents telling you your rabbit went to go live on a farm. Sometimes you get tricked. The Penguin is probably the best show I watched in 2024, easily. It has everything you'd want in a show. A fat man, his Dominican sidekick, it's an amazing show. The Penguin is probably the first show I ever watched where I was intentionally rooting for who is realistically the main villain. Even when I watch shows like Death Note, where the main character is quote unquote the bad guy, I was still rooting for L in that show, I'm not gonna lie to you. But in The Penguin, I was duped and bamboozled by this evil Tony Soprano. I thought the Oswald Cobb in The Penguin was somebody who, yeah, is doing a lot of bad stuff, but it's Gotham. They learned how to put switches on their water guns in kindergarten. I thought this was someone who had a heart of gold, someone who wanted to help his friends and family and community. And man, was I wrong. Oswald Cobb is a piece of shit. He is a liar and a deceiver, and the only redeeming quality of him is that he has a hilarious accent.
We were shitting ducks out there!
I was talking a lot in my Batman video about how the movie subverted expectations with the Riddler, and how typically when an audience familiar with Batman hears the Riddler, they think of a slightly more evil Redditor. But in the Batman, the Riddler in that movie is insane. He's a sociopath. He's literally 4chan Zodiac killer. He's nothing like how one would expect the Riddler to be. I thought, despite this being amazing writing, it would be a one-off, because honestly, the Riddler is the only one who really needs this type of recharacterization, because he's the villain. He needs to be a little bit frightening, and honestly, if I saw this guy, I'd give him a swirly. But I was wrong. It wasn't a one-off. Apparently, the writers behind the Batman and the Penguin just have an infinitely deep bag, so they can recharacterize characters that were set in stone for years and make them, in my opinion, more compelling and interesting than any previous version. And you can call this recency bias or whatever, but let's keep it a buck. Even if you combine this, and this Penguin and put them against the Penguin from the Batman universe, it wouldn't be enough. One of the most amazing parts of the Penguin is how in the show, you are not an audience member. You are a mark. You are being conned. Oswald Cobb spent the entire show, and I mean this literally, the entire show, lying to every single person he talks to. His mother, Vic, the mob, himself, and more importantly, because we're real, the audience. We're watching this man do the worst things, be the worst person, but because he says some soft words and feels sincere when he say it, we just let it rock. That's insane. We watch this man let probably 50 of his employees get blown up in a bomb that realistically, they probably all could have escaped it if he just yelled while running and nobody really cared. That's not very nice, boss. That's how I imagine they talk in Gotham. One of the most fascinating parts of the Penguin is that subversion of expectations, because the villain with a heart of gold trope is something that has stood the test of time. And while watching the Penguin, we're seeing Oswald kill someone, and then we go, but he loves his mom. So we instinctively assume that this show is following that trope, so we instinctively support Oswald. But we're wrong. It's not following that trope. In fact, it's not following any trope. This motherfucker just evil. Which begs the question, where's Batman? In the Penguin, there's a brand new drug on the street, multiple gang wars, a bomb that leveled a neighborhood. Where is he at? I know his Catwoman looks like this, but what the hell, man? You gotta stay focused. You're all we got. One of my favorite parts of the show was the fact that Batman never showed up and was only barely mentioned the entire time. The way I see it is if Batman showed up in the show, it would have become his story as opposed to a story about Gotham and doing world building for future installments of the franchise. Think about it like this. Because of the Penguin, we know way more about Gotham as a whole. We know more about the internal politics, the big players, the actual city politics, the layout even, like the sewers and subways and all that. They're literally living and operating out of the subway system because Oz and Vic can't be seen above ground or else
you are cooked.
Batman not being in the show was such a great move because it gave all the characters and plot points a chance to shine, and it keeps the story in the world grounded. So as opposed to following Batman in his billion-dollar mansion and him solving detective cases, we in the trenches. Batman not being in the Penguin gives the universe an opportunity to breathe on its own without needing the oxygen tank that is Batman. We don't need to follow Batman around to see things happen, because obviously, this shit is happening without him being here. And a lot of things are happening without him being here. Penguin has gone from the relatively low-level minion in the Batman Batman to the guy in the Penguin. And how was he able to do all this? Well, because of you. Well, not you specifically, William. I see you. But when I say you, I mean us, like the audience. The first thing that happens in the Penguin is we see Oswald one-tap Alberto Falcone. Now, the scene is pretty interesting. We see Oswald get demeaned and embarrassed, and to be honest, I felt pretty bad for him. So when he killed Alberto, I was like, whoa. And then I was like, nah, I get it. And then he just does that for the remainder of the show. And it isn't until we see what happened with his brothers that we realize, maybe this isn't such a good guy. Oz gains power so quickly in the show because he's such an immaculate liar. He's able to play on everyone's feelings, even the audience's, and it ultimately gives him the win at the end of the day. The Penguin is very plainly one of the best shows I have ever watched. Incredible acting, incredible storytelling, Penguin's accent, like genuinely, I am not surprised it won all the awards that it did, because why wouldn't it? It's one of the first shows I've ever watched where I, as a part of the audience, felt like I was in the story. The characters feel so real, and you grow so attached to them while watching the story go down, and ultimately it's a show that leaves you with just one question. Seriously, where the fuck is Batman?
Ran through all my obstacles, I feel like Crash Bandicoot. I want a Rolls Royce, Lamb yours, nigga, and a coupe. Diamonds so damn wet like water, like the falls in Cameroon. Fucking with this hoe with blonde hair, she look like Sailor Moon. Fucking with this light skin